Hey guys, Ian here. Today I've got 10 tips for you to help you start mastering MIDI. So I'm going to start with some really basic stuff and go through that really quickly, but then I'm going to show you some more intermediate and advanced techniques that I use daily when making tracks, and I think they'll really help you out. So let's just start really quickly with the basics. Create a MIDI region, P key to open it up or double click it, and then I assume you probably know about how to draw in MIDI, like so. And of course, you got various tools in here: velocity, mute. You got scale quantize if you're like using a piano or synth. You got time quantize, so you can add swing or quantize your notes. That's all kind of the basics. Let's get to something more advanced. And actually, you've kind of seen me already do it a little bit. This green button up here is something that a lot of people don't know about. It's just annoying. So hit this green button. It's kind of nice, right? And this totally just depends on your workflow and what you want at the time, and sometimes you do want it on. This is called the MIDI out button, and that is my first tip for kind of getting better skills with MIDI. My second tip that you also kind of saw me do already is the collapse button, which is this button right here, coupled down from the MIDI out button. And this is really nice because sometimes you just don't need to see all these MIDI note options, and you just want to use a couple MIDI notes. You want to focus in on them so you can collapse everything, and then that just makes your life a whole lot easier. Okay, let's close out of that region. Okay, so let's say you're not a maven with music theory. What you can do, if you have a set of notes in here like this and you want to know what they are, you can go to this area, kind of right below the collapse button, and Logic will tell you that you have 5 notes selected, and that it's a C minor 7-9 chord, which is pretty nice, especially when you're more in the intermediate stages of learning music theory, and sometimes maybe you're a little confused, or you just need a reminder about something. You can select the notes like this, and oh, okay, it's a B flat 6 sus 4. It's pretty cool to know. Again, that's something that a lot of people forget about with Logic, and it's a really cool feature that not a lot of DAWs have. So that was my third tip. My fourth tip, speaking of chords, is if the piano roll is a little bit cramped for you, like there is ways to make it bigger, but one of the best ways to get a lot more real estate happening for your MIDI is to go up to your window menu and then choose Open Piano Roll, or the shortcut is Command 4. And now you have a separate window that you can make quite big, but even more importantly in a way is if you want to put it on a second monitor, that's really sweet and can really help you out when you're maybe doing like orchestral stuff or getting very complex with lots and lots of notes. So that was my fourth tip. Let's move on to some more advanced stuff. Slightly more advanced, not super advanced. Again, let's say you're working on some chords and you want to just move your notes up and down by steps, like so, with a key command, not with your mouse. That's a really valuable skill to have, as well as moving everything up by octaves, up or down by octaves. Now, the way you learn how to do this is you're going to control click on a note, and then in this menu here, we have transpose events, +1 semitones and -1, the key commands over here, and then +12 semitones, -12 semitones with the key commands. Now, my shortcuts, my key commands, are slightly different than yours probably because I've modified them. I just wanted mine to be as simple as possible and actually to correlate with Ableton's. for the same exact function. The way you can customize your keys, by the way, is you go to your key commands, edit, and then let's search over here, transpose. Okay, so here they are. And let's say I didn't want to use the up arrow anymore. I could just delete it and learn by key label. And I'll do the equal sign. And then now you pretty much just need to go through and accept all those. And I now have a new key command for that. But I don't want that one. I'm just going to go back to learn by key label, up arrow, accept. You can read through all those things, but they're basically fine. And so yeah, so I have up and down for semitones and then shift up and down for octaves. And this is something I also use just constantly because it's a really good technique for voicing and inversions and all sorts of compositional techniques when writing chords. So definitely learn those. So kind of along the same lines is MIDI nudging. MIDI nudging is really cool, and what it does is it allows you to move your notes left and right with a key command. So the way you access this feature, or the way you learn about it, is, again, control-click on a note, and then set nudge value to. You can set your nudge to all sorts of different values here. I often have mine set as a tick, actually, and I'll show you that in a second. And then your keyboard shortcut will be over here on the right. Again, I've modified mine to just be the left and right arrows because I use this feature quite a bit, and the default one was just a little annoying to me, so I, again, went and modified it. So let me show you what ticks do. If you have it set to ticks, you can select MIDI notes and just ever so slightly push them over, like barely even perceptible. And I use this a lot if I want to add like a human feel to my MIDI, which I don't always want to do, but let's say I'm writing something kind of jazzy, or I want to evoke a human quality, like it's not perfect. This is a really good way to do it. Just kind of move your notes ever so slightly before and behind each other. And also sometimes if I'm writing drums, I'll put like my clap like a little bit before my snare, or my snare and my clap a little bit before my kick. And this can also help there too. Of course, you could just use the mouse, but if you have snap on, then you got to go adjust that, etc. So I kind of just like using nudge. Now, if you don't want to use ticks though, again, go to your set nudge value, and doing like a note value is also a really good idea, like eighth notes. You know, that's a really good idea if you're writing a lot of chord progressions. That might fit your workflow a little better. So experiment with that and check out nudge. It's definitely a really cool feature for MIDI. Okay, let's close out this and check out this MIDI region. Okay, so as you're probably noticing in here, there's a lot of velocities going on with these MIDI notes. And that's totally great. Sometimes you need that, but sometimes, especially with electronic music, if you're like writing synth parts or something, sometimes that can actually get in the way and be kind of annoying. So let's check out what the inspector has to offer in terms of MIDI. If we open up the region menu, there's a kind of sub-menu here called More. And there's some really cool features in here, but I just want to direct your attention right now to the dynamics section. And what you can do here is for this region, this whole region, you could put the dynamics at fixed. Let me put this back to the default. Okay, and let's listen to this real quick just so you get an idea. Okay, so it's highly dynamic, right? And again, that's sometimes great, but let's say we want it to just be really smooth. I'm going to go to Dynamics, put it at fixed. Listen to how this sounds. totally smoothed things out, which is really cool. It happens to be at a plus 21 value here for the velocity, but we could change that. And it'll still be smooth, but it'll be quieter. So we've kind of overridden all these velocity values in here, and sometimes that's kind of what you need. And a similar effect here too is, let's say you don't do fixed, you can actually scale what the velocities are in here. So maybe you do want the notes to be pretty dynamic, but you only want them to be half as dynamic. Or maybe you want to like magnify the dynamics way more. I almost never do this, but check this out. Yeah, so in this case, the loud notes got even more loud and the quiet notes got even quieter, so things got even more dramatic. I might start using this more, actually. That's pretty cool, actually. If you want to add drama, put this up to 400%. Okay, and now let me just show you something real quick too that I like to use, which is gate time. And this is cool. It just kind of gates your MIDI notes. So right now we've got all these long legato notes here. Check it out though when I put gate time at 25%. Really small tip right there, but I have a lot of fun with that sometimes. If we put the delay up here, we could really kind of change the whole feel of this chord progression and make it staccato and more dubbed out without having to go in here and change lots of note lengths. Okay, so that was my 8th tip. Let's go on to tip number 9, which is MIDI transform. Let's look at some drums real quick. So I got this drum loop here. Kind of a basic hip hop loop. Now I'm going to go to the functions menu here, MIDI transform, and I'm just going to select the first one because it won't work yet. Now there's a bunch of different presets in here in MIDI transform, and they will kind of drastically or subtly alter whatever MIDI you have going on. And there's no way I have time in this video to talk about all of them, and some of them are not as useful as others, but the two that I find very useful, especially when drum programming, is the double speed and half speed. I find half speed particularly useful when I'm trying to make the kind of like drop or halftime section of like trap and twerk songs. So let me just show you real quick how that might work. I'll just select all this there. Half speed. And now it sounds like this. And then furthermore, what you could do is you could select your hats if you wanted to, maybe even just some of your hats. And let's do a double speed. Maybe let's try this and double these even. Let's do it one more time. One more time. Yeah, so this is just kind of a fun way to make variations, and I find myself creating some nice happy accidents with the MIDI transform function. All right, my last tip, number 10, is going to be the step editor. And this is a really cool way of making modern hip hop or trap drums, because basically it's Logic's step sequencer. And so let me show you how this works. Open up a region. We've got some notes down here. Placed on a kick, snare, hi-hat. So what we can do is instead of having it on piano roll here, we can select the step editor. And then lanes are available for the corresponding notes over here. And then now the way these lanes work are adjusted actually over here in the inspector where it says lane. And so what I actually like to do is on every lane, I like to put the pen width quite small. And you'll see why in a minute. And then on a per lane basis, you can adjust the grid value. And that's why this is a really good technique for modern trap drums, because when you want really fast rolls and stuff like that, it's really easy to do here, because with the pencil tool like this, you can really just drag across and create patterns really quickly. But now a quick tip is I like to, when using the step editor, I put the first tool on pencil and the second one on eraser so that I'm always ready to draw stuff in, and then I can quickly just hold command and erase, like so. Okay, so here is the hi-hat lane. Let's see. And that's the kick. And this is the snare. So let's put this on 16th notes. Let's put these across. Let's do something with a triplet here, maybe. See how that sounds. Maybe we could do something quicker here. How about up here? Do something really fast. Just maybe there. Let's see. Maybe a 30-second triplet here. Yeah, so this is just a really fun way of creating drums. Okay, now you might be wondering what the height of these bars are. This actually correlates to velocity. So right now our hi-hat is not velocity sensitive, so the height of these makes no difference. But if we were to go into our ultra beat and turn up the velocity sensitivity, then you'll actually hear a big difference. You know, you could make variations in velocity like so if you wanted. And actually you could even grab the line tool, which is nice for making ramps like this, if you need them. Probably better for drum rolls, but just for the sake of demonstration, check out how this sounds. Okay, so those are my top 10 tips for mastering MIDI in Logic Pro. Hopefully these will get you on the road from a more basic user to a more advanced one. Thanks for watching. Till next time.